In the past 5 years, oil has traded as high as $147 a barrel and as low as $33. And the cause of the wild price swings is more than just traders playing market games, says Pulitzer Prize-winning author Daniel Yergin. It's an entire world caught in a mind game.
We could see demand was going down. We're going into recession. Why is the oil price continuing to go up? And I came to the conclusion that it's not only, supply and demand, it's not only the financial markets, it's not only the dollar, it's also what people believe. And there was a belief system that peak oil, the world was going to run out of oil, therefore it made total sense, except it wasn't true.
Yergin drills deep into the financialization of oil, peak oil theory, and other controversial energy issues in his new book, The Quest.
Let's go around the world, if you don't mind, and start with Saudi Arabia, because they have all the reserves, or at least people think so.
They have a lot.
What happens when the Arab Spring reaches Saudi Arabia?
The reaction, we've already seen the reaction that King Abdullah came back from recovering from his operation in Morocco, came back to Saudi Arabia and basically put out about $131 billion on social spending, which if you grossed it up and compared it on population, it would be like double the size of the stimulus that we had. So what Saudi Arabia does have is the financial resources. Those countries in the Persian Gulf are like welfare states, which the countries in North Africa didn't have.
One up-and-comer we keep hearing about is Brazil and Petrobras. We keep hearing about them finding brand new vast oil patches, oil finds in the Atlantic. What kind of a player will Brazil be?
Brazil is definitely the up-and-comer. It's amazing. In the book, I talk about how when Brazil started doing ethanol, the reason they did it is because they didn't have any oil. Now they've made these huge discoveries offshore. Petrobras is at the forefront in terms of deep water. And Brazil has the potential by 2020 to be producing twice as much oil as Venezuela, which we've always thought of as the sort of oil heavyweight of South America.
Let's move further around the world and talk about China. Now, China is a demand story. Does the world have enough oil to satisfy China's demand and a very thirsty America?
Well, that is the question, and a key chapter in the Quest is called The Demand Shock, and it's this sudden growth. Is around 2004 when the world woke up to China as a giant market. And the Chinese, their economy grows fast, it needs energy. I was at a conference where the president of China spoke and he had three top issues. Energy is number one. So the Chinese are concerned about ensuring that they have the energy they need. At the same time, they know they have to become a lot more efficient in it. But you look at the growth of automobile population in China and you can see that their demand for oil is going to increase.
Let's bring it back to America. Are U.S. companies able to compete with Chinese companies when it comes to securing oil fields and oil contracts in emerging markets like Africa?
Well, the Chinese certainly have an advantage, which is called a checkbook. They have about several $1 trillion in the bank account at home, and that gives them some advantages. I think you need to keep this in perspective. All of the oil production of all the Chinese companies outside of China is less than one super major. And if you were in the position that China is, you would be out there. They have a very competent oil industry. They still produce half of their oil. So clearly one has to be aware of this, and there are clearly places where Western American companies have said that they couldn't meet the Chinese terms. Their other thing is that the Chinese also have a taste for risk that others don't. If you look in Iraq, who's really big there? It's the Chinese who are willing to take the security risk.
And as for America's quest for energy independence, Yergin says it's a long, tough road, but at least we are headed in the right direction.
I think there is steady progress there, and as we have more efficient cars, we'll see more of that. So the question is, are we vulnerable or less vulnerable? And we actually seem to be in a direction where we're less vulnerable, but we're still, at the end of the day, there's one world oil market. If you have a big disruption somewhere, it's a disruption everywhere.